Today we're going to show you how to install a maintenance kit on your dryer, and it's a really easy job. All you're going to need is a putty knife, a Phillips screwdriver, a 5/16 nut driver, and a small flat blade screwdriver. Let me show you how we do it. Now before we begin this repair, the first thing we'll need to do is to disconnect the power to the dryer. If it has a cord on it, simply unplug it from the socket. And if it's a hardwired dryer, you'll need to locate the fuse panel and turn the power off at that point. We're next going to have to pull the dryer away from the wall and disconnect the venting, because we will need to access the back of the dryer as well as the front. And our first step in disassembly will be to remove 2 screws that secure the top to the lint filter housing. Set those aside. Now the main top is held to the cabinet with a couple of clips at the front. You can either access them with a putty knife in on either edge, or just pull slightly ahead on that top and lift up on it. And tilt it back and lean it up against the wall, or have somebody support it. Next, we're going to disconnect the wire harness to the door switch assembly. So with a small flat blade screwdriver, we'll go in under the edge of that connector and release the locking tab. Separate the harness. And next we're going to remove the front panel. There are 2 5/16 screws. On the back side, we'll remove both of those. Next we'll tilt the panel forward. You may need to support the drum. And then we're going to lift up on it slightly. Disconnect the 2 hooks from the bottom of the front panel. There are 2 clips at the bottom of the cabinet that fit into some rectangular holes on the bottom of the front panel. So we'll set that aside. Next we're going to release the belt from the idler. So we'll reach in and release the tension on the idler, and then we'll roll the belt off of the motor pulley. And then we can support the drum with the belt and remove it through the front of the cabinet. We'll set that aside. Now our next step will be to remove the triangular rings that hold the drum rollers in place. So with a flat blade screwdriver, just poke it in one of the openings and pop them off. Slide the drum roller completely off of the shaft. And we'll remove the rear triangular ring as well. And discard that. Make sure the shaft is clean and not scored. And we'll take one of the new rings that comes with the kit. We'll push that all the way to the back. Make sure it locks into place. And we'll slide on one of the new drum rollers. Make sure it turns freely. We'll install another one of the triangular rings. Then we'll move over to the left-hand drum roller. Your model may have a support arm for that drum roller, which will need to be removed. It'll have a single 5/16 hex-head screw down into the base. Remove that first, and then it'll have a push nut on the end of the shaft, which you'll have to work off. You can discard that push nut. And again, we'll have a triangular ring. Pop that off with a screwdriver. And discard it. We'll slide the drum roller off. Remove the rear ring. We'll clean that shaft. Make sure there's no scoring on it. And we'll install A new triangular ring. Push that right to the groove at the back of the shaft. Install another new drum roller. A new ring on the front. And we'll take our support bracket. We'll line that up at the end of the shaft and reinstall the screw in the bottom to hold it in place. Then we'll take one of the new push nuts that comes with the kit and press it on over the end of the shaft. And you should be able to push that on with your hand, but if you need to, take a socket, slide it over the end of the shaft, and press it into place. Make sure it's secure. And the drum rollers are on. Now when you remove the belt and the drum, the idler pulley probably fell out of its mounting spot in the base, but basically it has a little hook on the end of the bracket. Fits into the larger of the rectangular slots on the base frame, and then two locator tabs that fit into the one on the right hand side. Now with belt tension on the idler, it will pull it back and hold it firmly to the base. So we can discard the old idler assembly, and the new one will install basically the same way. The front of the base bracket will slide into the larger opening. And the two tabs at the rear will fit into the smaller slot. Now, typically it won't stay in place while you're putting the drum in, but to understand where it's at will make it easier when you go to install the belt. So when we install the drum and the belt wraps around it, it becomes difficult to see how it orientates itself around the idler pulley and the motor pulley. So we're going to show you with the drum out of the way what it's actually going to look like. We'll come through the opening beneath the idler pulley and wrap around the motor shaft. The belt will travel over the top of the idler, up the right hand side of the drum, and across the bottom and up the left hand side of the drum. And the tension of the idler bracket will hold that belt tight against the drum and the pulley. So we need to make sure that that's how the belt is positioned. So you just let the idler lay flat on the base of the dryer. We'll wrap the belt around the drum with the groove side of the belt against the drum. And we'll lift it into the cabinet, set it up on the rear rollers, make sure that it's firmly on both rollers. Position the belt roughly in the center of the drum. Then we'll reach in underneath and hold that idler assembly into position. Take the belt, pull it over the top of the idler, through that opening. At this point we'll have to put some tension on that idler spring. Loop the belt around the motor pulley. And then we'll rotate the drum a couple of turns just to make sure that it's in the proper position. And that should also center the belt on the drum. And now we can put the front panel on. So when we reassemble this front panel, we want to make sure that these rectangular openings on the bottom on both sides fit over these clips. And we'll lower them into position. Now at the same time we'll need to lift the drum so that it will sit on top of that felt. Make sure that both corners have dropped into position. Again, lift the drum up, make sure that it fits over that felt. We can rotate the drum a bit just to let it slide on easier. And then we can reinstall those 5/16 hex head screws. Remember to reconnect the door switch harness and make sure that it engages the locking tab. Now ready to lower the main top where it will hook onto these two catches. And you just pull that a little bit forward until it snaps into position. And then remember to put the two Phillips screws that hold the lint filter housing to the main top. Now we're ready to reconnect the exhaust vent and reconnect the power, and our repair is complete.